All right. So my name is Big Time, and trying to do something a little different today, maybe something a little impromptu, but I've been trying to reach out to members of the divested community, and I have the link in the chat if anybody wants to jump on. Someone did reach out to me, and by talking back and forth, I was trying to essentially, well, let me just explain. I don't know if it was understood. They said they could meet up and they'd be interested to do an interview. I wish to talk to a member from the divested community, and I'll just explain why I think that's important. So, essentially, for me, I watch channels like Divested Zealot and Cynthia G. And what I find fascinating is to use some divested talking points. An African American woman in America is toe tagged every 5 hours. The Wall Street Journal put out an article saying that 2,077 African American Black women were killed in 2022, and 83% of their cases have gone unsolved. The number one predator of Black women is Black men. They have a 62% sexual abuse of children under the age of 18 in the home. You're 3 times more likely to be a victim of domestic abuse. And the fact that the media downplays the violence that comes from the most violent demographic in our country. There's a mass shooting every day in Blackistan. Every day. Children and innocent people are being killed every day. And I understand that the news and the media tries to cover this up and they try to hide it. So it would only make sense that at some point, the producers of that community and the producers of the Black community are the women. The women are the ones who get into college. The women are the ones who go to school. The women are the ones, for like 90%, who start businesses. It would make sense that at some point, if they haven't bought into the whole systemic institutional yada yada bullshit, white supreme pizza narrative, it would make sense that at some point women would go, I equate it to a gangbanger. Hey, I grew up in this really bad area. All my friends are dying. Maybe I shouldn't be a gangbanger. I've been to 5 funerals. Maybe I just need to get out of Blackistan. And I believe this is the same thing, or this is my idea or speculation of how the divested community came about. There are women who have paid attention to their community, their family. They notice the things that are talked about, the things that are the violence that is accepted, and they just decide that we're going to step away. We don't want to be involved. And this is called divestment. And so I think this is what I find fascinating is two things that I really find fascinating about this. Number one is I really admire and respect somebody like Divested Zealot. And I know this is weird saying this as a white guy, but I'm from Philly. I'm from South Philly. I saw a lot of violence. So it's hard to explain to other white people. If you take the time to listen to and watch these shows, there are women who come up on the panel and they tell stories. They tell stories about awful things that they've been through. They tell stories about what their own family has done to them, people that they've lost, violence and rape that has happened to them. And it's so rare in our community that somebody like Divested Zealot and other members on her panel, like Rogue and Snapple and Kyra and Ebony and Aaliyah, they wish to save Black women. They've chosen a group of people that through the internet and anonymity, they wish to reach out to and help as many as possible. Their message is your life matters. And that is so rare, especially in my community. But I think it's being around the violence and seeing it all my life. Number one, to have it acknowledged by Black women and to hear these horrible things that happen to them, because you watch, they put up news stories. So the term is they bring the receipts, they play stories, women come up and tell things that have happened to them. And it gets hard. It's admirable when you hear a person like Divested Zealot say, reach out to me, I'll talk to you one-on-one, and I'll try to help you. And this is, to me, this is, I pretty much put people into two categories. They either value life or they don't. Now, those are very broad definitions. And Divested Zealot and Cynthia G, they've decided that they're trying to save Black women. That's the line they've drawn. And that's, I'm not going to argue with somebody who's trying to save other people. Most people would only consider themselves and their family. And honestly, you could make a strong argument that in today's age and the violence and the economy and everything that's happening, that is only your responsibility, is yourself or your family. But the fact that these people try to take it a step further and they're willing to spend time, resources, energy to essentially create, if you want to say, like a pathway to safety or counseling, whatever DZ does, bringing attention to stories, bringing attention to trends and patterns of violence, denial, gaslighting, deflection from their community. That's amazing. I really deeply respect that aspect where these women twice a week come up here, tell their stories, talk to people, offer counseling, and stand up to other people. And now let me get into the second point, which is fascinating, which is the pushback. It is such an amazing phenomenon, the pushback that these ladies receive. You're presenting evidence of stores being robbed, people being beaten, women being beaten, raped, children being shot and murdered. You're presenting these stories. You're showing stories of mammies. You're showing stories of Pookies and Ray Rays. You're showing stories of people who make exceptions for violence and criminality in their community. And they show it twice a week. And it's just amazing the amount of deflection, denial, excuses, and the personal attacks that these women go through. It seems like the basic message is you're not supposed to talk about it. You're just supposed to ignore it. It's just this way. There's nothing we can do about it. It's the white man's fault. America is racist. Whatever reason you want to insert here, just the idea or the fact that there's a group of women who essentially are seen as traitors. They're seen as betraying their group. That's how I see it. Their common phrases are, You love the white man, you hate yourself, you hate your skin, coon, Uncle Tom, and whatever terminology you want to see is basically being a race traitor, being a swirler. And even though they make points like there are women who are there are women who sleep with women, there are women who just are not with a man, there are women. Their goal is basically for you to escape Blackistan, for you to escape Chirac and get to safety. That's the main goal. And it's just surprising how people call in and they just have an issue with you pointing out the violence in this community. So my thing is, the reason I wish to speak to women in the Black community who are divested is I'm curious about what caused you to value your life. What did you have to experience? What did you have to see? What did you have to go through, whether personally or in your family or friends, that caused you to wake up and say, I don't have to do this. I don't have to suffer. I can leave. And the reason I'm asking, and I am asking because the way things are, the divested community sees themselves as a Black women only space. And that's fine. Now, Divested Zealot and other women on her panel are married to, I believe they call them zaddies, like white men. But essentially, I'm an outsider. And I'm trying to make this message that I'm trying to learn this perspective of how these women can identify someone worth saving and someone not worth saving. It's essentially, I'm trying to understand it as a blueprint. And the reason I say that is because what I'm noticing in my community, in the white community, and I have receipts. I don't like when people call me a liar because I have news clips and video essentially of white people and even children being beaten, robbed, and killed. And their white friends and even their own parents feel more sympathy for the fucking piece of shit, the fucking Pookie or Ray Ray that either beat them or killed them. I'm not trying to bring the receipts right now. I have them right on a Word doc if I need to bring them up. I'm trying to make this message and make this video for any woman from the divested community. I wish just to hear your story. I wish to lay back. I'm trying to use your experience as a blueprint for my people. Because when I see parents who betray their own children, when I see parents who feel nothing, they feel more sympathy. When a parent's child is murdered and the parent says, 2 lives were lost today, the poor carjacker, the poor Black Pookie with the CVS receipt of a criminal history. Well, now his life is over too because he's in jail. When you give just as much sympathy to the person who murdered your child, when you give them more sympathy, in my opinion, let me quote, I think it's Matthew 18:2. And I'm trying very hard to be to find some sort of inner peace, or, you know, for any of you who should cause these little ones to stumble and turn away from me, it would be better if a millstone were hung from your neck and you should be flung into the sea. That's what I think of people who make exceptions when their friends and their children are murdered by the Black community. When you feel more sympathy for the person who hurt your family member or murdered your children, you don't deserve kids. You deserve to be thrown into a wood chipper. And this is what I'm seeing in my community. So I wish to talk to any woman from the divested community, if you would give me the time, if you would extend to me that charity. I'm just trying to learn more from your perspective. I'm trying to hear what it took, what you had to go through to value your life. What do you identify in another woman from your community? How do you make the decision to either help them or walk away from them? Like, what is the line between a woman who's a Black woman who's trying to divest and a mammy? Now, I have my own perspective because, like I said, I lived in South Philadelphia for about 16 years. So I lived in, an open market, where drugs were passed around every day. I went to a college where I went to community college in Philadelphia where I had to avoid certain bathrooms because Black kids would hang out in the bathroom and sell drugs. I had to go to school with kids who would have nice shoes and earbuds, and they would listen to their music loud in the classroom, and the teacher was afraid to say anything. I had to take the subway every day, and I had to avoid certain stops, and I had to hide from herds of kids in the summertime going to work. I'm a grown-ass man, and there'd be 100 kids coming down the street at 4 a.m. in the summertime, and I'd have to hide. I'm a grown-ass man, but I can't fight 100 kids. I lived in Philly when the gallery was shut down because they were tired of all the violence. I was in Philly when Mayor Michael Nutter was talking about when he gave his speech at the pulpit and said they were going to hold parents accountable, and that never happened. He cucked. So I have my understanding. I've seen drive-bys. I've seen women being beaten. I've lived next to drug dealers. My name, big time, was given to me by a drug dealer. He was mad at me because I didn't want to sell drugs. That's where my name comes from. My nickname, which I kept. Oh, you think you're big time? I had a stepfather go to jail because he sold drugs. Why the fuck would I want to be like him? Anyway, it's kind of a tangent. I think it's important to learn. I think there's a lot of lessons and a lot of perspectives. But the main thing I'm trying to lean into is what caused these women to learn to value their life. What did they go through? What was the tipping point where they finally said, I don't deserve this. I deserve better? What, to give it a spin, what finally made you believe that you're big time? Because that is the definition of big time. You think you're better than someone else? You're big time. You think you have the right to fight back? You think you have the right to defend your life from someone trying to steal from you, carjack you, home invade? Oh, someone's breaking into your home and you're going to use your Second Amendment right to defend your family and your children. That's big time. You value your life over the criminal and you're going to put a line in the sand and fight back. That's big time. That's a choice. I did have a woman say she was going to come on, but I'm going to say that that was my fault. I didn't really tell her what time zone I was in. I just said that I said 8:30, and I sent a message this morning, Eastern Standard. So I live in Pennsylvania. I don't know. There was a woman who said she was older and she would be willing to talk to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start streaming around the same time every day. And I guess I can kind of use this as just my message to other people. Again, if any woman from the divested community wishes to talk, I would love to hear your story. That this isn't about any pushback. This isn't about any stupid bullshit. This is about learning what it took for you to value who you are. This is about what it took for you to say, I don't deserve this. My life matters. That's my goal here. That's the message I'm trying to convey. I wish to take what you learned for yourself, and I wish to teach it to anyone I can from my group. I understand somebody might say, oh, big time. Are you going to be an ally to black women? How many black women are you going to save? Well, what I'm going to say is, you've chosen your group to save, and I've chosen my group to save. Okay? I've read in chats and I've heard on those shows that every time a Becky is beaten, raped, or killed, that's one Pookie taken away from the black female community. And that perspective is fine. I can understand that. But I would ask for the same amount of respect. I'm not going to ask you or tell you who to save. Please don't tell me who to save. Okay? Let's at least show each other that sort of respect. I'm asking to learn, and I'm asking to understand. And if anyone wants to come on, and if anyone wants to talk, I would greatly appreciate that. I'm going to hang out for another couple minutes. I'll be streaming every day. We'll start making the stream at 8:30. I think what I can do is maybe I can see if I can pull up one story. Give me 1 second. Also, something else I probably want to talk about, which I find fascinating. I was listening to Divested Zealot last night. I guess another thing I could talk about is, if anybody remembers what happened at the Michigan State University, where the 42-year-old black guy shot and killed 3 students and shot 5 more. Apparently he had been caught having a gun, but he didn't have a concealed carry. And from my understanding from the news clip I watched, that would have landed him in prison for 2 years, but he got probation. High probability he got probation because he was black. I'm just trying to offer subjects to talk about. So, interestingly enough, the response to this, and let me use another example as a comparison. Temple University lost their first police officer last week or the week before. And interestingly enough, even though there's a huge amount of Temple University students who are attacked by Black members of the North Philadelphia community, this cop was killed, number one, because Temple cops have to patrol by themselves, which to me is complete BS. Those kids are in a fucking war zone. You should have 4 or 5 cops on every corner with automatic shotguns or rifles in a low slung position. The fact that that cop was trying to do what he did, he witnessed a robbery and a carjacking, which is on video. And the cop was shot in the head by a white kid. A white powder dusty, I think that's what DZ calls it. And of course, as it goes, when the family came to visit the next day, 2 Black kids were shot in the following area. The family had to run away. And then the following day, 7 kids were shot by 3 Black kids who got out of a car. They were wearing Pooh Shiesty masks. And what's really interesting is the response from Philadelphia and the response from West Virginia. So Philadelphia's response was, they said, oh my God, gun violence, which is a way to take accountability from the Black community. And the Philadelphia City Council, which is primarily Black Democrats, there's a couple of Republicans. One of them is a Chinese guy named David O. He's pretty based, but they decided to basically hire, they created another bureaucratic position, the Philadelphia Public Safety Director. And of course, their starting salary is going to be $260,000. And they're going to have more meetings and more interviews and more town halls, and they're going to be able to talk and collaborate, which means absolutely nothing. Versus West Virginia. West Virginia just passed a bill, which was just signed by the governor, that now said that college students in West Virginia who are American citizens, if you're 21, basically they've given college students the right to carry on campus. And of course, colleges are furious, and all the liberal colleges are so upset because they hate the Second Amendment and they hate this country and they hate America. But again, it never made sense to me. If you're 21 years old and you don't have a criminal record and you can jump through all the legal hoops, why is a college special? The college doesn't tell you you can't vote. The college doesn't tell you women can't have an abortion. The college doesn't tell you what religious building to go to. They don't tell you that they don't like white Christians. They don't tell you what synagogue or mosque or Hindi temple or church to go to. They don't tell you you can't have a trial by jury or a lawyer. But they try to strip your First Amendment, and they certainly stripped your Second Amendment. All the colleges are mad because now children, you're 21. If you're 21, they can now carry on campus. Essentially, some control, some of the tyranny that existed on a college campus was taken away and given back to the students. And I agree with this. There's an old saying, seconds matter when the police are minutes away. And in all the defensive gun use I carry, every home invasion, your odds of survival increase when you reach for a gun versus if you reach for a cell phone. I respect the police to an extent, but your security will always be your responsibility, number fucking 1. And the idea that you think that it's somebody else's job to protect you, I'm not sure where that mindset came from. So I'm just trying to talk to see if anyone wants to jump on and have a conversation, whether about the college or whether about from the divested community. Like I said, I'll start streaming 8:30. And I'll start streaming, if I can, daily at that time. I'll reach out to this lady again, and if she jumps on, she jumps on. If somebody else wants to jump on, that's fine. So anyway, we'll try again tomorrow. I'm Big Time. Thanks for hanging out.